And next to play us out, here's Sting. And what's that mean to play us out? What does that mean? What does that mean to play us out? I can't do it. Look, can't do it. We do it live. We do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. What's up, everyone? Yo, okay, here we go. All right, make sure we're working here again. All right, we're going to do it live. We do it live here. We do it live. Yeah, we're going to be covering Sophocles and Oedipus Rex. We're going to try and keep going here. Man, the YT is messed up. I don't know what it is, but there's something in the air, y'all. There's something floating around in the psychosphere, and I'm not sure what it is, but man, it's really going because I've seen y'all be on your guard now out there because I've seen some craziness. I've seen some crazy stuff in the past couple of days. First of all, we're going yesterday, and a heat flash strikes the screen, and then all of a sudden, a couple of our homies come in here, and then it starts going all wobbly. Natesky mentions max headroom, and bam, screen, it just falls apart, right? I mean, it's always going to do that anyway, right? But then the power dies, the phone dies, the data dies, the computer dies, whole neighborhood dies. Well, I mean, the electricity, the neighborhood didn't die. And it was gone. So I don't know, you guys, you never know. You never know out here in the wastelands, right? In Appalachian, you got all kinds of oxy, meth head, Gill Bates types just driving straight into 5 gut towers, trying to do bird strikes and all kinds of stuff. So who knows? Who knows what happened? And then I tried to set it up just a minute ago, and didn't work. I know they're setting up 5G everywhere in all the other countries on all the other globalist islands that they're taking care of. And listen, I want to give a special shout out to all my homies who are here right now, and especially to Ellie, beautiful Ellie, who helped me out with this stream. She also helped me with some Greek because we're covering part 2 of Sophocles, Oedipus Rex today. And she is knowledgeable in the Greek language. She speaks Greek. Got to crack that old GMO drink, you guys. And yes, this is the new stream. Here we go. The other one's still up because I didn't even have time to get it down, but it wouldn't even get going. I hit go, and I said, look, we do it live, and it wouldn't get going. So you know what? I just said, F it and set up a new one. Here we go. And I'll delete that one later. So let's get going. Yesterday, we covered Sophocles. Really, we talked about the first section of Oedipus Rex, right? The 400 BC play, Sophocles, part of the Oedipal cycle, the Theban trilogy. And go see that stream if you haven't seen that. So that's part 1. We also talked about Jim Morrison and The End, where the song, The End, is the voice of the song, and the end is, of course, Oedipus himself. And today we're going to focus on some of the rest of the play. Yesterday we talked about the plot and some of the meaning of the play, and what we can take from it, what we can take from the language. We're going to look at some more of the text today. We're going to talk about specifically Tiresias, the character of Tiresias, who is the blind seer who also appears again in T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. And we're going to talk about Creon and Jocasta. I think y'all like my little joke yesterday. Joe casting a spell on me, right, Jocasta? Okay, sorry. I'm sorry, folks. No more of the boomer dad humor, even though I'm neither of those. Okay, so we're going to dive into some of the language of the play, especially the symbolism, some of how the form and the content work together to produce meaning, especially in terms of symbolism of the play, alliteration. Let's see, the visual symbolism. And we're especially going to dive into some criticism of Oedipus Rex and talk about Greek ritual and drama, the origins of Greek drama in terms of religious ritual, pagan religious rites and ritual. And we're going to talk about the idea of blinding, free will versus fate and Hellenistic free agency and some other things here. Now, yesterday, it's, I don't want to just rehash what we went over yesterday in terms of my interpretations of this play. So I won't go back over that. You can watch part 1. We're just going to kind of pick up where we left off. And if you want to see, again, listen, please see the links in the description of the video. Please see the links that I'm sure I know Ellie's in here, and maybe some more of my beautiful mods will show up. Of course, we're doing this early. We're doing this live early on a weekday, and we're trying to do it early so that Gill doesn't attack those 5 gut towers. And let's see who we got. We got Natesky. Yes, Natesky, we were working finally again. Thank you. So listen, my beautiful mods, and also if you see the links in the description of the video, if you want to support me, of course, I really appreciate that. And listen, if you want to see ideas for analysis, for further, literary analysis for streams coming up, please drop them in the description below the video when we're done, right? I've had some great ideas. I get lots of questions. If you have a question you want to ask me that's lengthier than you want to put in the description, then go ahead, and I'm just going to say my email address. You can email me at madmaximalism@gmail.com with 2 X's, all one word. MADMAXXIMALISM, madmaximalism, 2 X's @gmail.com. And I'd love to read your emails. I've gotten a few really good emails, and I appreciate it. I also want to thank some of the people that have supported me over the last few days, especially. I keep getting in donations, which is really, really nice. Of course, I really appreciate that. So let me read off, see a couple of the donations that I've gotten, and then we'll get to it, you guys. So let's see. We got, let's see. We had Kristen. Shout out to Kristen at Slowboy Whiteboard, who has a great channel. And Kristen, I think we're all really enjoying the content that you keep reposting. It's especially important, you guys, go to Slowboy Whiteboard at YouTube, our friend Kristen, because she's posting stuff that, you may have seen a lot of the material that she posts. We certainly, we're pretty based here, so we know about Smart Dust and DARPA and the satanic rituals at concerts, etc. All of the different elements of the conspiracy theory world. But it's important that people like Kristen are reposting a lot of these old videos, right? Because, a lot of people haven't seen, it's all been scrubbed, right? So a lot of people haven't seen, Ted Gunderson. A lot of people haven't seen the Big 9 event stuff. And people are always coming to this fresh and new. So that's really cool. And I really enjoy the content. So yeah. And thank you so much for supporting me, Kristen. Thank you to Rats Platigan, who, of course, asked me about my books in the stream two times ago. And I gave like a little mini book tour of those little Harvard classics behind me. Thank you to Rats Platigan. Shouts out to you. Appreciate you. Thank you to Jack Lorenz, who supported me, sending me a cash app a few days ago. I really appreciate it. He said, for digging the content, keep on keeping on. So, of course, I really appreciate that. Thank you to Brandon Sanderson, who cash apped me $20 a little while ago. He said, for really enjoying your new channel. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you to all of my homies out there. Of course, thank you to Jeth, who also supports me. And everybody, if you want to support me through Cash App, PayPal, or Venmo, I really appreciate it. Of course, that's how we keep going. Of course, we're going to keep going anyway, guys. We're going to, I shouldn't say that, but it's the truth. I'm telling the truth here. We're going to keep going because I love literature. Obviously, this is like my thing. And I hope that, everybody out there watching this, maybe you get something out of it. Maybe you don't. You may be so, 33 infinity level high IQ alpha chat that this is like way below you. And if you are, I appreciate that. Maybe you're just watching for the, maybe you're somebody out there listening just to hear somebody speaking to you. Because I say that genuinely, because that's sort of that's kind of what this is. This is like, I mean, it sounds so obvious, but this is like, imagine being that base trucker driving through the Nevada desert, right? With your CB radio, and you just want to hear human voices and hear some human contact, right? You see the lightning storms in the distance, right? You see the dystopian acid rain coming at you, down the highway, and you just want to reach out there and hear somebody else talking. So, if that's what you get out of this, I appreciate it. So hopefully I'm speaking to you. And before I get into this, you guys, I'm serious. I'm not trying to be like esoteric here or something, in terms of what I'm about to say. I'm not saying that, I'm 11 Stranger Things level psychic. I'm not bragging, folks. No, what I'm saying is, y'all, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on in the world. We know what's going on in the world. I'm saying I don't know what's going on local levels, but I have seen some serious fights in the last few days. I'm talking some physical fights in random places, and you gotta watch out there, people. You got to be careful. There's something in the air. I mean, we just got out of April, right? Late April, where we had the, degenerate Gahay, Valpurgis knocked, Mayday, Beltane, what the hell ever, shit, right? And that, that puts something up in the air. But listen, people are, you got to watch where you're going. You got to be careful out there, and stay awake, right? Stay awake whenever you go places, and be careful and look out for your surroundings, right? That sounds totally out of character because we're talking about literature, but listen, man, it's true, right? And I love all y'all, and I just want everybody to, listen, you love God with all your heart, your soul, your mind, right? And love thy neighbor as thyself. What else can we do? What else can I do, right? I'm just a dude here trying to, that's right. Christ is risen and the demons be raging. Yes. And thank you, God. Thank you, God, for letting me be here. To just talk some literature with you guys. Right. Okay. So, I'm sorry, folks. Okay. That's how I felt. And I just had to, it's easy. It's hard to not notice. Right. So let's get going. There's some craziness out there. So let's get going. And we're going to talk about some Tiresias. And I'm trying to figure out where I left off yesterday because I kept on babbling, even though the stream cut off and the lightning, struck the 5 gut tower. The psychosphere is popping off. People are losing their minds. People are losing their freaking minds. But you know what? We're going to do it live. That's how we do it here. So we're going to do it live. And let's go. Okay, so we left off at, we're still in Act 1 of this play. And what had just happened is Oedipus had come into, what's up, TGF? What's up, homeboy? Love you. Oedipus had just come into the forum or the city, and he says, what's going on? Why is everybody dying of this virus, right? Because, and what they tell him is there is a pollution. They tell him it's pollution, right? The pollution is infecting the city, and it's making everybody, get these weird, bubonic chronic boils on their body, and fall into the dust and rage like they're, demons suffering in fire. I don't know. There's some horrible plague. And he consults Creon, who is the brother of Jocasta, his wife, Oedipus's wife, and the priest. And they basically tell him they went to the oracle at Delphi. We talked about this yesterday, so I'll go over it real quickly. They went to the oracle at Delphi, and they said basically, there's a pollution because of some sin. Somebody has committed a grave, horrible sin, and you got to find out what it is. And it's because basically Laius, the old king of Thebes, did not come back, and we find out that he was murdered, right? Well, yesterday, as we discussed, what's going to happen is that Oedipus is going to find out that he himself is the pollution, the pollutant, and that he is the polluter. He's the polluter because he has killed his own father and he has unwittingly married his own mother, Jocasta, and therefore his daughter is his daughter's sister, right? And we talked yesterday about how this seems so outlandish, but that this is emblematic of the elite system. Everybody knows when you talk about these elites, especially when you talk about royals, right? There's so much incest and inbreeding, and that you get these weird, hello. You get these old Prince Philip characters, hello, right? And they live till they're 97, but they're just decrepit, like they can be decrepit demon people, yes? And that's part of their system. And he has unwittingly played into that. Now, his sin is not, he also did commit a grave sin. He killed his own father, but he didn't know it was his dad, but he still killed him because he was in a road rage incident because the guy ran him off the road. So he stabbed him to death and killed the whole party that he was with. And then later finds out, oh, that was my pops. Oops. So the deeper meaning of the play becomes a question of fate versus free will. And one of the arguments we're going to read is that it's one of these academic arguments. We talked about this when we did the Anglo-Saxon stream and when we talked about Beowulf, and that's the idea of fate versus free will. Maybe there are two separate anonymous authors. Remember when we talked about Beowulf and especially the seafarer poet, like we have long sections that may be a pagan pre-Christian Viking poet, and then we have another section that may be a monk who added on the Christian elements of the poem. And my conclusion was that this was a single person. But he does believe in free will, but he's still living in a time literally where the idea of mutability and the ubi sunt motif and fate are still playing into the kind of cultural life of the Vikings. Right now, that's a little bit different from what we get in this criticism of Oedipus Rex, where the scholar will argue that the Hellenistic system really sort of fostered both. They did believe in what's called free agency, where they had free will, but when an oracle tells you that something will happen, it's fated to happen, and yet you have the agency to get to arrive at that fate. So he argues that it's slightly different from predestination. Now, we could say that's all the same thing, man. You're consulting this demon voice coming out of a volcano, right? Where you are SRA, monarch mind control, torturing these daughters of the elite, the Vestal virgins, at their Vestal temple, at the oracle, and feeding them with, drugs and all this stuff, breaking their minds. And then they are giving you a possessed fortune, something that's going to happen. And so free will, right? I mean, fate is fate, and free will means that you have the will to do these. You have the choice, right? I'm reading Dostoevsky right now, and besides every single page of this particular book being incredibly based, he actually talks about this. He actually makes the argument, right? He says that, human beings are. He says that human beings are like that. It's not when we talk about free will. It's that like human beings are ungrateful, right? Even though he says that you have this liberation because you have the choice to do nothing. You have the choice to do good or bad or do nothing. But ultimately, like no matter what happens, human beings are ungrateful for the choice for the ability to make the choice. And so we're going to see what that means with Oedipus Rex. And we're going to kind of determine through the language whether that's true or not. So let's see. Oedipus meets Tiresias. Okay, Tiresias is the blind seer. And of course, this is like a meta level of the play, because the idea that we talked about yesterday of seeing and vision. No, it's not. No, it's from the Underground. It's the Underground Man. The idea of seeing and vision is like coded throughout the text. It's continuously through Oedipus Rex. And that's because ultimately, spoiler alert, as we know, Oedipus will blind himself. That's his final act. And this is a sort of this is like a change from the typical. No, Ellie, you're good. You're right. Ellie, yes. Thank you, Ellie, Thomas, and John Adams. Appreciate y'all. And we're gonna have something coming up with that Dostoevsky book coming up soon with a special person that I'm not going to name yet. So I'm not going to really discuss that anymore because that's for that one. But needless to say, literature is the intertextuality of literature, right? The landscape of literature. One thing affects the other, and all these things sort of interconnect. That's what allusions are, right? In text. Even reading, we get the obvious allusions in Oedipus Rex because it's so ingrained in terms of the canon of literature that all these other things relate back to it. But I always still find new things, and you hear words and phrases that echo in other works of literature. So, Tiresias being the main one right here with Tiresias being in the Wasteland, in T.S. Eliot's Wasteland. He's the blind seer. He cannot physically see, but he can metaphysically see, or he sees the truth. So Tiresias says, Creon is no hurt to you, but you are to yourself, he tells Oedipus, right? Oedipus says, this is page 27 of this particular edition of this book. And he says, wealth, sovereignty, and skill, outmatching skill for the contrivance of an envied life. Great store of jealousy fill your treasury chest. If my friend Creon, friend from the first and loyal, thus secretly attacks me, secretly desires to drive me out, and secretly suborns this juggling, trick-devising quack, this wily beggar who has only eyes for his own gains, but blindness in his skill. For tell me, where have you seen clear, Tiresias, with your prophetic eyes? When the dark singer, the Sphinx, was in your country, did you speak word or deliverance to its citizens? And let the riddles answer. And yet the riddle's answer was not the province of a chance comer. It was a prophet's task. And plainly you had no such gift of prophecy. From birds or otherwise from any god to glean a word of knowledge. But I came, he says, Oedipus, who knew nothing, and I stopped her. I solved the riddle. Mine was no knowledge got from birds, and now you would expel me because you think that you will find a place by Creon's throne. I think you will be sorry, both you and your accomplice, for your plot to drive me out. And did I not regard you as an old man, some suffering would have taught you that what was in your heart was treason. So here we have Oedipus saying that Tiresias, for giving him this prophecy, for telling him this prophecy, right, is not only a traitor, but he is a conspirator, right? And why does he think this? Well, okay, because think of the world that we live in now, you guys, right? We live in a world where we have a pollution, not only a pollution that we talked about yesterday, like climate, and, we have the CLIMATE change thing going on, right? This idea of pollution. Of course, the real pollution, if you're talking about it in terms of that, would be, DARPA, corporations, the ionization of the atmosphere, cadmium, nickel, silver, bromide, silver oxide, all this stuff that Gill is constantly bombarding into the atmosphere for weather manipulation. Yes. But in terms of pollution, what do we have? We have the big thing that's been happening over the past 2 years, right? And one could say that one argument for this would be, oh no, we gotta, there's a conspiracy to see who did these things, right? And the other is, no, there definitely is a conspiracy, right? But the conspiracy is not what you think it is. Aren't all traitors conspirators? Not necessarily, are they? Right? Right, because one can be treacherous without being a conspirator. Can't they? I suppose, yes, Thomas, on a deeper level, yeah, of course you're right. Because you are conspiring. I suppose, metaphysically speaking, right, to bring someone down. I don't know. I got to think about that one. That's a pretty deep question, Thomas. Are all traitors conspirators? I mean, not literally, I guess. Yes. Can one be a singular traitor? Are there ever singular traitors? Well, actually, that's probably not. There probably aren't. Right. In terms of especially the conspiracy theory. Right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. That's a pretty good question, Thomas. I got to think about that one actually. That's interesting. I think that if these two are being certainly, yeah, I probably misspoke here. So if these two are being accused of treachery, then they are certainly also conspiring because there's two of them. Yeah. However, we know that this is also one of the this is hubris. Yes, because it's actually unwitting hubris, isn't it? Well, not really, because Oedipus says here, he goes on about, I'm the one who did this. I'm the one who solved the riddle of the Sphinx, not you. And he says, mine was no knowledge got from birds, right? He's talking about divination and all that stuff. Are we all not breathing together, right? Yes, Natsuki. Yes. But where does his knowledge come from, right? He says, mine is no knowledge come from birds, from divination, from cheap tricks, but he doesn't say where his knowledge comes from. And I think that that's part of the idea of the hubris within the play, right? Yeah, good point, Thomas. And Natsuki. Yes, we are conspiring. We are breathing together. That is true. Interesting etymology, isn't it? Yeah, we've talked before. You guys, if you're watching this later, if my high IQ buddies here in the audience are talking about the etymology of conspire, of course, with inspire, expire, spire, spiration, to breathe, right? Inspiration being the breath of God. To expire, meaning to breathe out, to breathe one's last, to die. But conspire, to breathe together. Interesting. No, that's true. I would say that, conspiracy and treachery would be a conspiracy with the evil one, wouldn't it? Look at Dante. Look at Dante's Ninth Circle. Yes. Where do they get their inspiration? Where do they get their inspiration to commit such treachery? Wouldn't it be from some demon whispering in their ear? Or at least paying unwitting homage to the evil one? Probably. This says, one of my notes here says, were he old, Oedipus would torture him for treason. That's basically what he says. He would torture Tiresias for treason were Tiresias not old. And it doesn't matter how angry he gets, but only whose words mean the most truth. We look at this man's words, the chorus says. We look at this man's words and yours, my king, and we find both have spoken them in anger. We need no angry words, but only thought how we may best hit the gods' meaning for us, because they're trying to figure out the meaning of Apollo's voice through the oracle. The oracle at Delphi is Apollo's oracle, right? Phoebus's oracle. So one point that the scholar makes is that, I think I just said this, is that in terms of oracles in the Hellenistic system, and in especially in ancient Greek drama and with Sophocles, it's not that they give you the oracle and tell you your fate and whether it will or will not happen or how you'll get there. It's the fact that it will happen in terms of their system. Tiresias says, if you are king, at least I have the right, no less, to speak in my defense against you, because he is just trying to tell Oedipus in this section that, look, man, he says, look, man, back off. You don't want to know what this is about. And Oedipus says, tell me what the oracle said. Tell me what's happening here. And Tiresias says, you really don't want to know. I don't want to tell you the truth about this oracle. And the point is that, why does he want to tell him the truth? Because he knows that it's him. He knows that it's his fault, right? He knows that it's Oedipus's fault. And Oedipus can't stand this. He wants him to tell him exactly what the oracle said and what's his interpretation. And because he won't tell him, he thinks he's hiding something from him and that he's conspiring perhaps with Creon to overthrow him. of course, in the true fashion of hubris, right? And in the changing cycles of power, it's Oedipus himself who has overthrown his own father. That's the whole meanings of the play. He's overthrown his own father to gain power over Thebes, right? And that no matter where he went, Thebes or Corinth, he ended up in this place. He says, Tiresias says, if you are king, at least I have the right, no less, to speak in my defense against you. Of that much I am master. I am no slave of yours, but Loxias's. And so I shall not enroll myself with Creon for my patron, since you have taunted me with being blind. Here is my word for you. You have your eyes, but see not where you are in sin, nor where you live, nor whom you live with. Do you know who your parents are? Unknowing, you are an enemy to kith and kin. In death, beneath the earth, and in this life, a deadly footed, double striking curse from father and mother both shall drive you forth out of this land with darkness on your eyes, that now you have such straight vision. Shall there be a place, will not be your harbor to your cries, a corner to Cytheron will not ring an echo to your cries. Soon, when you shall learn the secret of your marriage, which steered you to a haven in this house. Haven, no haven, after lucky voyage, and of the multitude of other evils, establishing a grim equality between you and your children. You know nothing. So muddy with contempt, with words and crayons, misery shall grind no man as it will you. Damn, he should not have pressed this guy. Oops. That's pretty bad, right? When you're in ancient Greece and you curse the blind seer Tiresias, who then says, back off, right? And then what happens? He says, a double striking curse. Why is it a double striking curse? Because it's from mother and father, right? It's a double striking curse because it's from the generation above and from the generation below. It's double striking because it's from Thebes and Corinth. It's double striking because it's his two eyes. It's going to strike his eyes out. He says, remember, notice, by the way, throughout this, we get all the references to vision, eyes, seeing, establishing a grim equality. Again, we get this, this is the bottom of page, let's see, bottom of page 28. And this is lines 424 and 425 in the first part of this play. It's a verse play again, where the grim equality here is a great pun, yes, because it's grim because it's a bitter taste, it's a bitter vision, it's a fatal vision, and it's also the equality of the two eyes and of life and death. And also here we have like this idea of unification of the opposites. Sometimes Tiresias is pictured as an androgyne, right? A Tranz, especially in the Wasteland. He's a Baphomet character, essentially, right? He has a woman's breasts, but he has male parts. Yes, he's got, the Baphomet obviously is like as above, so below, right? The grim equality between you and your children. You know nothing, he says. Well, he knows nothing. And it's not just because he knows nothing, like he doesn't understand his own past, but he also doesn't understand his own future. And he will literally come to know nothing. He will know nothingness. As we said yesterday, the meaning of this play, one of the major things that I got from this play, and I think this is supported in the text, is that to know nothing means, first of all, if we're talking about in terms of sense data, right? He knows nothing from his past. He's continuously cursing himself, and he's going to blind himself. He's going to literally blind himself because he's going to force himself to take account for his own actions and to blind himself to what he could not see. That's why he doesn't die at the end of the play. That's why it's a tragedy, and he falls into exile instead of death, right? So one of the things about this play is that it's kind of this like sort of quasi-Aristotelian idea of like the tragic hero who falls from a great height right into death, is also one who like has agency and free will to act out the things that happen within the course of events of the play or the poem. But in this, it doubles back on itself like a number of times, because the question becomes again whether Oedipus is like a victim of his circumstances, right? Or whether he is like playing out some horrible thing, like we said with King Lear, we are but playthings to the gods that kill us for their sport. I think one of the arguments here about in terms of the gods is that, you know, the gods in this world aren't noble. I mean, the gods are, you know, they're demons, right? The gods. But why are they not noble? Because they are moving the pieces on the chessboard around here for their own, you know, manipulation in terms of their own idea of fate. But they hold no accountability. Nothing will ever happen to them, and they won't ever change, right? That's what they are. Oedipus, on the other hand, at least forces himself to come to, no matter what happens, he has to pursue the truth to the very end. That's the whole point. Tiresias curses him for it, but Oedipus, nonetheless, continues all the way to the very end. So when you say that like his end is his beginning, right, or he has this grim equality, or he knows nothing, well, his nothingness comes from himself, right? From forth the fatal loins, right, in Romeo and Juliet. Well, that's from the origins of him through his mother and father creating him, right, is the immediate curse that will fall upon him. Because Laius hears that, oh, your son will kill you, he hears. So what does he try to do? He tries to, he tries to get rid of his son. He tries to send Oedipus off, have him killed. He's not killed. He's taken off to Corinth, where he's raised, not knowing about his own mother and father, right? There's all kinds of dust in here, you guys. I'm sorry. Like, it's crazy. Hello? We need, there's a problem in here. There's a dust problem. Please, can somebody take care of it? Room service. I'm not sure what voice that is, but it's the voice I use when I have room service or when I answer a phone. Hello? So, his end is his beginning, yes, because he pursues his end. Even after his blindness, he will know nothingness. He will force himself to stare into darkness, into the abyss, and what stares back at him? Nothingness. The nothingness that he himself has created. So let's keep going. He says, let's see. Oedipus says, is it endurable that I should hear such words from him, from Tiresias? Go, and a curse go with you. Whoops. He's always cursing people. Tiresias says, I would not have come either had you not called me. Oedipus says, I did not know what you would talk like a fool, or it would have been long before I called you. Okay, that's interesting. The fool and the king. Here's a King Lear. We have a sort of an inspiration for King Lear here. Well, duh, everybody knows that if you're the king and you're talking to your fool, the fool is the wise one. The fool is the one who's going to speak the truth to you, right? Regardless of the consequences. That's the whole point. Doesn't he know this? Tiresias says, I'm a fool then, as it seems to you, but to the parents who have bred you, wise. Damn, right? What parents? Stop. Who are they of all the world? Who are my parents, he says. Tiresias says, this day will show your birth and will destroy you. Again, unification of opposites, grim equality, right? Birth and death, life and death, life and void. And we have your birth being the thing that will destroy you. How needlessly your riddle darkens everything, Oedipus says. Oops, darkens everything? Well, your life is going to be dark, right? But it's in riddle answering, you are strongest, Tiresias says. Damn, these guys got a nice back and forth together, as Norm Macdonald calls it, a batonage, right? It's a badminton term, a batonage. They have a nice batonage going, a back and forth. Man, you don't spar with Tiresias, dude. This guy's got some put downs. Oedipus says, yes, taunt me where you will find me great. Tiresias said, because remember, why is he the great riddle answerer? Because he solved the riddle of the Sphinx. Hello. Why would you go and ask Tiresias for the answer to things when you're the great riddler, the riddle solver, right? Speaking of the Riddler, do you guys see the new Batman? We might as well talk about this right now while we have time. You guys see the new Batman, right? The Batman with old Bob Pattinson. I think that calls for an analysis. I'm not probably the one to do it, right? That would be our homeboy Jay Dyer over at Jay's Analysis. Or I don't know, maybe we could, here's a good idea. Maybe we could, let's get our homeboy Jerry, right? Let's get our homeboy Jerry. Maybe we get a little panel going, you guys. You can write us for that. And we can talk about, do our little analysis of the Batman or something like that. I think that would be cool. Yeah, listen, I wasn't going to watch it. I wasn't really interested. But homeboy Jeth, shouts out to our homeboy Jethro, was like, watch it. It's fun. You got nothing else going on. And I was like, that's true. I got nothing else going on. And I mean that. So what did I do? I watched it and it was like, okay. And actually how Jeth sold it to me was, he said, look, Bob Pattinson doesn't even do the stupid voice. So just give it a shot. And I thought, okay. And also I got to say, Colin Farrell is awesome. Now, do I like superhero movies? Of course not. Obviously, fake. Hey, do I like anything like that? No, I don't think any of us like that. But we do love movies, and I think that the Riddler. Speaking of the Riddler and the riddle in Oedipus Rex, it's interesting that like for much of the movie, you're like, oh, so this is the good guy. He's wearing this mask, right? But he's also like, is he the good guy here? Of course, it's not until the end when I won't give it away, but there's sort of an Ariana Grande concert-esque turkey shoot that takes place. Obviously not the good guy anymore. There's good guys or bad guys. Like this is kind of the whole thing. There's no virtue. Right? I mean, there's like a cloaked virtue. Cloak, right? Because Batman. I don't know. Tell me what you guys think of it. What's your interpretation of it? I mean, obviously it's pretty funny because the Riddler he's a streamer. He's a live streamer. By the way, if you do see the movie, it's pretty funny because look at the screen names. When they show his stream, he's got fewer followers than I do. And that's crazy, right? Fewer subs. And yet he's got this like, army or whatever. I don't know. It's pretty weird. The movie, Nate says the movie felt more like Seven. What's in the box? Yeah, that's a good point. Actually, that's a pretty insightful comment there, Natesky, as always from our high IQ people. What'd you guys think of Seven? Is obviously it's a disturbing movie, but it's gross, but it's good. And I like David Fincher. My favorite David Fincher movie is Prisoners. Prisoners is just like so amazing. It's so, with Jake Gyllenhaal, because it's about SRA and the labyrinth of the split mind and the psyche, DID. It's literally about Satanism and MK Ultra and mind control. It's such a dark movie, man. I'm sure everybody here's seen Prisoners. If you haven't seen Prisoners, that's not even David Fincher, by the way. That's Denis Villeneuve. But it's a Seven-esque movie in a lot of ways, I guess. So anyway, yeah, I just thought I would do a little diversion there. So thank you, homies. And thank you for all my mods and everybody. And if you feel like supporting while you're watching this, don't forget, drop me a Cash App or a Venmo. And if you do Cash App and Venmo and stuff, then you can leave a little super chat message and I'll read it. So that'd be cool. But of course, I appreciate PayPal and everything. So you guys have really helped me out. I really appreciate it. So let's keep going here. I'm going to just cover a couple more sections. Then I'm going to cover some of the analysis of this. Yes, thank you to our homeboy. Thank you to our homeboy at Soul Purpose at West Lexicon Media and ACR. Shouts out to you. And I love getting on there the other night. I just turned it on and there was our homeboy. There was our homeboy Soul Purpose, right? West Lexicon Media, ACR, with our old homeboy Hesher, right? From the old days. If you're OG, especially if you're OG, like, Jay's Analysis fan, you've seen You remember watching ACR every week. I mean, listen. We watched ACR, Alternate Current Radio. We listened. I mean, I watched the YouTube streams, but we listened to the podcast every single week. I've seen every single boiler. I mean, I'm pretty confident I can say that I've seen every single boiler room. I listened for a long time, for years, and yeah, there are homies out there. So we love that. We love seeing you guys on there. It's great. We got a nice, there's so many high IQ people that are out there for us to listen to and that are entertaining and cool and are fun. So I really appreciate that. I'm just some dude sitting here reading classical Greek literature. So I'm just happy to like have you guys here at all for me. I really appreciate y'all. All right, so let's get back to this. We were page 30 of Oedipus Rex, the curse upon Oedipus. Tiresias says, I said what I came here to say, not fearing your countenance. There is no way you can hurt me. I tell you, king, this man, this murderer, whom you have long declared you are in search of, indicting him in threatening proclamation as murderer of Laius, he is here. In name, he is a stranger among citizens, but soon he will be shown to be a citizen, true native Theban, and he'll have no joy of the discovery. Blindness for sight and beggary for riches, his exchange. He shall go journeying to a foreign country, tapping his way before him with a stick. He shall be proved father and brother both to his own children in his own house, to her that gave him birth, a son and a husband both, a fellow sower in his father's bed with that same father that he murdered. Go within, reckon that out. And if you find me mistaken, say I have no skill in prophecy. Damn. I mean, he damns him right here. And it's crazy because part of the meaning of the play is that even though Oedipus is obviously blind, he's deaf to words. He's deaf to looking within himself, or to looking around, or to bypassing his own arrogance or hubris, to understanding, brother, dude, come on, man. This guy is telling you what happened. He's telling you, of course, we don't have to suspend our disbelief too hard, because even if imagine reading this for the first time. Imagine being like in high school or, in college and reading, if you read this for the first time in college. I read this first time when I was 12. So it was pretty eye-opening. I said that yesterday on the stream. And I read it because I was reading Jim Morrison's biography. And it's talking about the end and talking about Oedipus Rex. And I thought, so I started reading. So I read the play Oedipus Rex. And imagine going back to that time and finding out that the climax of this play is that the guy is the bad guy all along, and that he has killed his own dad. The guy that he killed is his own dad. Oh, and by the way, the woman you married is your mother, and your daughter is your sister, right? And your brother is your uncle. I mean, you understand why Oedipus, his mind splits. He fractures, and he doesn't kill himself because he has taken ownership of everything that he's searched for in the play, but he gouges his eyes out with Jocasta's brooch, right? It's crazy. What an amazing thing that this was written over 2,000 years ago, right? This is like Tarantino, in his in his high violence, right? This is like Titus Andronicus level Shakespeare, but way more. And it's hard for someone to even come up with this kind of thing. And actually, you could say that, how does you can't write something like this? But this is the sort of thing that is real. This is based on something real. This actually happened, right? This happens now, is what I'm saying. This happens now, right? Conspiracy of Silence, Franklin Scandal, SRA, what's the place called in San Francisco? The base, the Presidio, right? McMartin, all these places. Damn, dropping some hot algo terms. So forgive me. Okay, so let's see. Dutro Fair. These fucking perverts, right? Okay, so imagine, right? Imagine being Laius and like you go to this demon priest and he tells you that he tells you your son is going to kill you, and so he casts his son out and kills his baby kid, right? Instead of going, oh, maybe I should pray, right? Maybe I should pray to God and like show some love to my son and like try and be decent, right? Imagine doing that. Yes. Um, okay, so let's see. A lot came out of that little prophecy. I'm going to skip forward here to Oedipus goes on this basically on a tear, trying to find out who has done stuff. Let's see. On page 36 of this text, we have Creon postulating about a reign of terror versus rule by respect, where he says, not if you'll reflect on it as I do, consider first if you think anyone would choose to rule in fear rather than rule in sleep, untroubled by fear, if power were equal in both cases. I was not born with such a frantic yearning to be a king, but to do what kings do. And so it is with everyone who has learned wisdom and self-control. As it stands now, the prizes are all mine and without fear. But if I were the king myself, I must do that went against the grain. How should despotic rule seem sweeter to me than painless power and an assured authority? Now, later on, we'll read The Prince, right, by Machiavelli. We'll probably go into that at some point because that's one of the key scenes in The Prince, one of the key passages where he talks about, loving by hate, ruling by hate or with love, or rather ruling with terror, and how ruling by terror is stronger for the Machiavellian prince. Essentially the satanic prince, right? He says, let's see. Now that doesn't mean ruling by strength or ruling ruthlessly is bad. It means what he does to get to that point. Yes. He says, let's see. Enter Jocasta. She is mad because of what he's been saying with Creon here. Oedipus says, he's talking to the chorus on page 39, line 656. He says, he has been your friend before all men's eyes. Do not cast him away, dishonored on an obscure conjecture. Obscure, of course, meaning blindness. That's, of course, Oedipus says, I would have that this request of yours really requests my death or banishment. Everything in this play is foreshadowing what later happens. Foreshadowing because he lives in shadows at the end of the play. Let's see. Jocasta says to Oedipus, do not concern yourself about this matter. Listen to me and learn that human beings have no part in the craft of prophecy. Of that, I'll show you a short proof. There was an oracle once that came to Laius. I will not say that it was Phoebus' own, but it was from his servants, and it told him that it was his fate that he should die a victim at the hands of his own son, a son to be born of Laius and me. She shouldn't be using this as an example of what not to listen to. But see, now he, the king, was killed by foreign highway robbers at a place where three roads meet. So goes the story. And for the son, before 3 days were out, after the birth, King Laius pierced his ankles, and by the hands of others cast him forth upon a pathless hillside. So Apollo failed to fulfill his oracle to the son that he should kill his father, and Laius also proved false in that the thing he feared, death at his son's hands, never came to pass. Pierced his ankles, man. Right? Pierced his ankles. His baby son. So clear in his case where the oracles are clear and false. Give him no heed. I say what God discovers need of easily, he shows us himself. Oedipus says, oh, dear Jocasta, as I hear this from you, there comes upon me a wandering of the soul. I could run mad. Jocasta says, what troubles What trouble is it that you turn again and speak like this? Oedipus says, I thought I heard you say that Laius was killed at a crossroads. They won't be lonely, right? And I'm going to miss everybody. And I'm going to miss everybody. Yeah. It's the first of the month. Hey. Oh, fuck with my wives, first of the month, smoking, joking, rolling blunts, sipping up 40 ounces again. Gone. We got the bus on all nights. We high. We got the bus. Where's 99? I give me some play, yo, double up what you need. We got weed, for the green leaf. First to show, but to lay low. When the popo creep in the road, so but they can't get away. The toss that, yeah, yo, keep your bankroll. We having a celebration. Gotta stay high. Okay, that was so cringe. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But when I read about the crossroads, that's what I think, right? I thought I heard you say that Laius was killed at the crossroads. Why did he kill him at the crossroads? Because he killed him at the crossroads between life and death and the grim equality that he mentioned in the first part of the play. And then he's going to take the left-hand path after he kills his own dad. Right? Do you get that this is more than just road rage, a guy doing this weird, this Freudian thing? We haven't even mentioned Freud, and I don't feel like mentioning Freud. Even T.S. Eliot says that Freud was bullshit, right? That he was surface level, kind of low IQ, that we get this idea from interpretation of dreams, that everybody emulates this. And I understand that. We talked about that last night, but come on, man. We're talking about something deeply metaphysical and spiritual here. We're talking about in their religious system praying to demons, right? And then living out this life like with this demon family that's done all this shit, right? Look at the shit that his dad did. I'm sorry to cuss so much. Look at the shit that his dad did to him, right? That's no archetypal thing that dads do to sons, right? No, we're talking about they did this to each other, and then Oedipus comes across this guy and then kills him, and then he goes and marries his mom, and then he wanders because he understands what he's done, because he comprehends it, right? He can't look on this creation that he's made for himself in life. That's the whole point. He's not a victim of all that. He is a victim, but he's not a pure victim in terms of like his life trajectory. He has agency in it. He wants to see what it all means. And when he finds it, he has to blind himself. That's why he's a man wandering in the darkness at the end. He says, I have a deadly fear that the old seer had eyes. You'll show me more if you can tell me one more thing. He's talking about Tiresias there, right? I will, Jocasta says, I'm frightened. But if I can understand, I'll tell you all you ask. Oedipus says, basically, please describe this company to me. Please describe this company of people that I met on the road. Talk to me about who they were and what they were like. She tells him, she describes him, and the guy that she describes, right, is the same guy that Oedipus saw. In other words, her husband, his dad. Oedipus says, oh, dear Jocasta, I'm full of fear that I've spoken far too much, and therefore I wish to see the shepherd. Okay, so the shepherd was the guy who witnessed the road rage murder. And that's Polybus. Polybus, whenever I read this, I always mistake it for Polybius. You guys remember that? You remember the Polybius game theory video on YouTube? That's a pretty classic conspiracy video. I bet Kristen has that one in the pocket for sure, right? Over at Slowboy Whiteboard. Yeah, the Polybius game theory, John Nash, X-Files video game, Last Starfighter-esque conspiracy theory, which I think is pretty. I actually like that one. I don't know about if "like" is the right word, but I like reading into that, and who knows if that's real. I would assume that that's real, by the way. It's got the Men in Black and all that stuff, but I would assume that one's real, especially in terms of, Pentagon training with, Pentagon, DARPA, future advanced warfare or direct energy weapons training, like vector training, like they did with video games and tanks. You ever seen that movie Project X with Matthew Broderick, which is do not watch that movie. It's highly disturbing, but it's about DARPA, right? It was about DARPA and Rand Corporation, like the experimentation on MONKEYS and using like, a crude like 3D vector system to fly planes and drones, probably into the Big Nine event. Right. But yeah, anyway, I don't know how I got on that tangent. I guess because Polybus always reminds me of Polybius here. And Oedipus says on page 51, about line 965, ha ha, he says, oh, dear Jocasta, remember the O. We've talked about this many times. Whenever you have O, the letter O in classical literature, that is as if the grave is yawning, as Shakespeare says, right? The bowels of the earth are opening up through the speaker because the real estate in a line of verse is expensive. Every word matters. Every word has to connect with every other word. So when we have a single letter, it better be important, right? Oh, yeah, it's going to love this one, Natsky. He says, oh, dear Jocasta, why should one look to the to the Pythian hearth? Why should one look to the birds screaming overhead? They prophesied that I should kill my father, but he's dead and hidden deep in earth, and I stand here who never laid a hand on spear against him, unless perhaps he died of longing for me, and thus I am his murderer, he says. But they, the oracles, as they stand, he's taken them away with him. They're dead as he himself is, and worthless. He curses the oracle. Later on, the messenger comes, old man, I do not wish to kill my father. Oedipus says, yes, I'm afraid that Phoebus may prove right. Phoebus, right? Why is Phoebus, the gentle wheels of Phoebus roundabout, dapples the drowsy east with spots of gray? Why is Phoebus, Apollo, the god of the oracle, right? Because Apollo is the sun god, right? So in other words, the oracle provides you with the truth. So the idea is that you are illuminate, confirm, right? We're walking into the shine, right? You're walking into the shine of Apollo's, face in the myth, and that's going to be the illumination that you receive walking into the light of truth, right? And he says, let's see, on page 54, do you know that all your fears are empty, the messenger says. How is that if they are father and mother and now their son? So he gets a false hope here. And he gets some false hope here. And then he says, let's see. Jocasta says, oh, Oedipus, God help you. God keep you from the knowledge of who you are. Oedipus says, break out what will. I at least shall be willing to see my ancestry. See, this is page 58, right? Though humble, perhaps he is ashamed of my low birth, for she has all a woman's high-flown pride, but I count myself a child of fortnight, beneficent fortune, and I shall not be dishonored. She's the mother from whom I spring. The months my brothers marked me, now as small and now again as mighty. Such is my breeding, and I shall never prove so false to it as not to find the secret of my birth. He's going to go all the way, right? And then he says on page 61, Oedipus says, you gave a child to him, the child he asked of. The herdsman says, I did. I wished I died the day I did. Oedipus says, you will unless you tell me truly. And I'll die far worse if I should tell you, the herdsman says. This fellow is bent on more delays, as it would seem. Herdsman, oh, no, I have told you that I gave it. Oedipus, where did you get this child from? Was it your own child, or did you get it from another? Herdsman says, no, my own. No, not my own at all. I had it from someone. He says, oh, master, please, I beg you. Master, please don't ask me more. Oedipus says, you're a dead man if I ask you again. Herdsman says, it was one of the children of Laius. Oedipus says, a slave or born in wedlock? Oh, God, I'm on the brink of frightful speech. Oedipus says, and I of frightful hearing, but I must hear. Oh, so here again, we have this sort of Synesthesia, right here, we have the mingling of the senses. He's got to hear. No matter what happens, he has to see and hear the truth, even though it's going to take him to his complete void. It's going to take him to the zenith, which is like the beginning of the end is the beginning for Oedipus, right? Jocasta gave away the baby because of the oracles, but it backfired, and the oracle finds its way back to him, right? And Oedipus says, oh, they will all come. It'll come out clearly. Light of the sun, let me look upon you no more. After today, I who first saw the light, bred of a match accursed, in a way living with them I live with, cursed in my killing. Everything he's done has been cursed, but he realizes he did it. He takes the blame for it. It's his responsibility. Also, bred of the match. The match is the match between Jocasta and himself. They were matched together, but it's a match because it's an illuminating match. It's the light that sparks. He's saying the first spark, right, is the same thing here that is the light of that mimics the light of the sun, and that's Apollo's light for him, and that's the light of truth that he's now seeing, right? He says, let's see. He stabs out his eyes. Jocasta commits suicide. The chorus speaks. Do you remember, Laius, that night long past which bred a child for us to send you to your death and leave a mother making children with her son? Give me a sword, I say, to find this wife, no wife, this mother's womb, this field of double sowing. Double sowing, right? Remember the double cursing? This is page 66, line 55. That field of double sowing whence I sprang and where I sowed my children. He's reaping what he sowed, right? Page 67, line 1275. And the bleeding eyeballs gushed and strained his beard. No sluggish oozing drops, but a black rain and a bloody hail poured down. The curse he called upon it in his proclamation, but he wants for strength, and someone to guide him. His sickness is too great to bear. In other words, his face and brain and mind is filled with gore. Right? It's not just, he didn't just stab his eyes out. I mean, he stabbed his eyes out. Right? Okay, that's the end of Oedipus Rex. I'm just going to read a couple things from the, let's see, some criticism of Oedipus. Let's see. This is about Greek ritual and drama. And let's see, this is Greek ritual and drama. Yes, please smash that like, you guys. If you're watching this, please smash that like. Please leave me some comments below, some good comments. Remember, say hi. Don't leave a negative comment. If you leave a negative comment, I'm going to cut it off there. Yes, please leave me a comment below. Smash that like. And please, if you will, think about supporting me. Links in the video, and the mods have dropped the links. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Really appreciate it, of course, as always. Let's look at some of this. It says, this essay is from Oedipus, Ritual and Play by Francis Ferguson. But when one considers Oedipus as a ritual, one understands it in ways which one cannot by thinking of it merely as a dramatization of a story. Even that story. The festival of Dionysus, based ultimately upon the yearly vegetation ceremonies, includes rites of passage like the celebrating the assumption of childhood, celebrations of the mystery of individual growth and development. At the same time, it was a prayer for the welfare of the whole city, and this welfare was understood not only as a material prosperity, but also as the natural order of the family, the ancestors, the present members, and the generations still to come, and by the same token, obedience to the gods who were jealous, each in his own province, of this natural and divinely sanctioned order and proportion. So this is talking about we mentioned yesterday Jesse Weston, right, from Ritual to Romance, and Fraser, the Golden Bough, and the anthropological elements of the Fisher King and the Wasteland, which are inherent in Oedipus, because part of it is about is about rebirth, right? Rebirths of cycle and regeneration, winter, spring, summer, fall, right? We get death, rebirth, light, the light of summer, fall, and then into death, which is sort of mimicked through the process of Laius Jocasta creating Oedipus, who then is killed but not killed, and then springs up again in Corinth, right? And then reappears and then comes back, has a winter time, kills his dad, goes into rebirth in summer with like the light of his marriage with Jocasta, falls with the pollution into death, right? And then it's the death of the pollution itself. And by the way, the city is healed after that. Yeah, they get rid of this pollution. One of the things that we took away yesterday in the stream in the first part, and then I continue to point out is one of the meanings of one of the essential things that we can take away as a meaning from this play is that the pollution inherent in this play signifies the pollution in our own world, in our own society, right? The pollution in terms of the soul sickness. Yes, that is ourselves, right, as individuals, and our sin, and especially the wide-ranging and deep sins of the elite who control from the top down, at the top of the power structure, right? Because when we live in a society that is degraded and depraved, right, with brother against brother, and with a worshiping of death on a standardized, social and political level, as we have with things that I'm not going to mention, that surely is a polluting sickness. Yes. And the idea of seeing and blindness again ties in to Dostoevsky's Notes from the Underground, the idea of like being hyper aware and of seeing things for how they are in truth. Let's see. This says, to talk about the ritual, the Greek ritual. So Greek ritual, I've mentioned this before, but we can talk about it real quick again. Greek ritual in terms of drama, right, would be, you may remember that scene in, The Doors when they named themselves the Doors. It'll be like Dionysus when he arrived in Greece, right, making all the women crazy. Be great golden copulations in the streets of LA. Well, because Jim Morrison saw himself as a kind of Dionysian figure. I mean, his poetry is Dionysian, right? Dionysian versus Apollonian. And we have the Bacchic rituals and the Bacchic rites, which play a part in that film, literally. Remember when he gets engaged to, not Pamela Corson, but what's her name? Not Gloria Stavers, Patricia Keneally. That's whom he married. She was an actual Wiccan. And when they sort of get engaged and they're in her apartment in New York City, in her like factory apartment, and they're reading demonology by, King James's demonology, like, and she says like she's got 16th century, texts and all this stuff, and they cut each other and all this fucking shit, right? And they literally talk about Bacchus and when the Bacchic rites. So in the play, the Bacchae, by Euripides, the play, the Bacchae, which we could cover later, this represents it's a dialectic, right? It's a dual nature of man, specifically as seen through the lens of alcohol, for one, right? The reason that Bacchus is the way he is, for half of the year, he is the benevolent, god of wine. And he comes to Greece. He arrives in Greece with great fanfare, which is reproduced in the theater. This is where people would go to the theater. All the women would arrive. They would adorn themselves with grapes and with, flowers and leaves, and it's springtime. And we have this anthropological, J.G. Fraser, Wicker Man-esque Lord Summerisle ritual, right? And they all get drunk and they have these ORGIES and they are all depraved and they do all this stuff. But then it degenerates into pure actual beastliness, right? Where then Bacchus takes on the aspect or the mantle of a beast, and the women, the Bacchae, run wild. They run rampant in the countryside, tearing apart the men, finding all the men that they come across, and literally tearing them apart and eating them. And that's supposed to represent the other side, for instance, of alcohol or drunkenness. Yes, which is like, honor. We got fun and festivities, and then we've got drunkenness and rage. So that's supposed to be sort of the dual nature of this. Now, obviously, this is archetypal, and the spiritual symbolism is a lot more complex than that. But that's the nature of the theater itself. That's where it comes from. That's why one of the reasons why in the theater, all the people are like in an amphitheater, for instance, and they come on and they're wearing masks. We've talked before, like especially about Ezra Pound and personae, and the donning of the mask, the persona, right, means mask. And one practical reason is that the people in the back of the amphitheater could not hear the people on the stage, even though it's acoustic. The acoustics are good, but they can't hear them because of all the festivities going on. So they would wear the tragic or the comic masks to indicate what was happening in the scene. Now, the players on the stage, the actors, the players on the stage are usually drawn from various members of strata of society, and typically like higher ups who are taking part in a religious ritual. And they come on the stage and if you've read the Magus, right, which Jay's covered on Jay's analysis, go see his essay on the Magus, right, the book The Magus, which is one of the book contains this sort of retelling of the ritual. It's a reproduction in real life of the Greek ritual, the Greek dramatic ritual with the religious element of sacrifice. Right? Of course, they sacrifice at the end. And as we just mentioned, the Bacchae, they are literally sacrificing and eating people. And this is supposed to represent like the fact that not only the gods would live through you, right? These demons would live through you and possess you because of the frenzy through alcohol and through sex and all this, all this stuff. They worked themselves up into a ritualistic frenzy with this Bacchus shaman character, but also because this is a sacrifice to the earth, for their pagan sacrifice to the earth for their fruits and the fruit, so they would, the vegetation and spring. And it's also a blood sacrifice, right? Now, of course, we are redeemed in Christianity, and we don't have to spill the blood of, people through weird plays and the, Bacchus drinking wine. Of course, we have the body of Christ, the blood of Christ, right? And the bread and the wine. And we no longer need any of this shit, this pagan shit, right? So anyway, that is the root of tragedy and comedy. That is the actual root of where the theater comes from. Theater is a religious ritual in its origins. And you can, they still did this in the Renaissance, right? Still, the Renaissance is still not this literally, but the Renaissance still contains a lot of elements of this, especially, but it becomes Gnostic. But the theater now, look at the theater now. Look at what the theater has become, the theater of life, right? All the world's a stage, the theater of life, Hollywood, which with culture creation and playing a part in our daily lives. Look at the John Depp trial going on now, right? With this, theater and life are commingled in such a way that one cannot tell the difference anymore. Yes? And if that's the case, where does the ritual begin and end? Okay, let's look at just a couple more passages. And I don't want to wear you guys out here. Let's see. The general notion we used to compare the forms and spiritual content of tragedy and of ancient ritual was the imitation of action. We kind of just said that. Ritual imitates action in one way, tragedy in another, and Sophocles' use of ritual forms indicates that he sensed the tragic rhythm common to both. Sophocles himself was in a pagan, he was in a cult. He would call them cults. Let's see. Sophocles has provided a conclusive answer to those who suggest that Oedipus could and therefore should have avoided his fate. The oracle was unconditional in line 790. It did not say, if you do so and so, you will kill your father. It simply said, you will kill your father. You will sleep with your mother. Right? He took a face from the ancient gallery and he walked on down the hall. He came to a door. Right? Came to a room where his brother lived and then his sister lived. And he walked on down the hall. And he came to a room where his mother lived, his father. And he said, Father, yes, son, I want to kill you, right? Mother, I want to, and that's Oedipus. That is Oedipus, he says. And what an oracle predicts is bound to happen. Oedipus does what he can to evade his destiny. He resolves never to see his supposed parents again, but it's quite certain from the first that his best efforts will be unavailing. Equally unconditional was the original oracle given to Laius. Apollo said that he must die at the hands of Jocasta's child. There is no saving clause. Here, there's a significant difference between Sophocles and Aeschylus. Of Aeschylus' trilogy on the House of Lies, only the last play, the septum, survives. In that play, it says, do not beget a child, for if you do, that child will kill you, which is conditional, right? In Aeschylus, the disaster could have been avoided, but Laius sinfully disobeyed, and his sin brought ruin to his descendants. They talk about the Oresteia here. Just a couple more things here. Why does Oedipus blind himself? He tells us the reason. He has done it in order to cut himself off from all contacts with humanity. If he could choke the channels of his other senses, he would do so. Suicide would not serve his purpose. In the next world, he would have to meet his dead parents. Oedipus mutilates himself because he can face neither the living nor the dead. But why if he is morally innocent? Once again, we must look at the play through Greek eyes. The doctrine that nothing matters except the agent's intention is a peculiarity of Christian and especially of post-Kantian thought. It is true that the Athenian law courts took account of intention. They distinguished, as ours do, between murder and accidental homicide or homicide committed in the course of self-defense. If Oedipus had been tried before an Athenian court, he would have been acquitted of murdering his father. But no human court could acquit him of pollution, for pollution inherited in the act itself, irrespective of motive. Of that burden, thieves could not acquit Oedipus, and least of all could its bearers acquit himself. And then there's one more part here, and that is the meaning of the play. This scholar's meaning, he says, nothing can excuse the gods, and Sophocles knew it perfectly well. He goes on to say it's futile to look for any message or meaning in the play. We've said this, by the way, to look for a message and meaning are two different things. There is no meaning, he tells us, in Oedipus Rex. There's merely the terror of coincidence. Well, that's interesting. I like that phrase, the terror of coincidence, but I disagree with that. Sophocles has no theological pronouncements to make and no points of criticism to score. Totally disagree. He says, here he goes. I cannot accept the view that Oedipus Rex conveys no intelligible meaning and that Sophocles' play tells us nothing of his opinions concerning the gods. Here's what we've said since the beginning, you guys, at this channel. Certainly, it is always dangerous to use dramatic works as evidence of their author's opinions and especially of their religious convictions. We can legitimately discuss religion in Shakespeare, but do we know anything at all about the religion of Shakespeare? Still, I think I should venture to assert two things about Sophocles' opinions. He does not give the gods human sense, just human sense, and he did always believe that the gods exist and that man should revere them. We know this because Sophocles himself is reported to have been in these religious cults, right? So that is exactly what we've said since the beginning, right? That's why we talk about the speaker versus the author, right? That's why we talk about the meaning that we can get from a particular work. There's always meaning that we can get from work, even when there's no meaning. When there's meaninglessness, that's meaning, because that's the author's purpose, their choice, their worldview. We talked about that with Soul Purpose here, West Lexicon Media, in that last stream that we did, right? We talked about that in terms of Jackson Pollock and modernity. That's postmodernism, but there is meaning to be gleaned from this text, especially in terms of metaphysical worldview and what we can say about religious ritual. So let's see if we have any super chats or anything. If anybody's got anything. Oh, here we go. Let's check it out. Let's see. Stephen Mulroney, our buddy Stephen Mulroney. Thank you so much. Shouts out to Stephen Mulroney, who donates $5. I really appreciate you, homeboy, on PayPal. Really appreciate it. Stephen Mulroney donated $5, and he's going to keep us going here. So I really appreciate you, homeboy. Let's see. Oh, snaps. Our friend Nick at TGF, the Green Feathers. Our based friend Nick at the Green Feathers at YouTube. Please go to the Green Feathers at YouTube and check out all of his interviews, his channel. If you don't know Nick at the Green Feathers, boy, you are missing out. He is our homeboy. He's based, high IQ, and we love you. I thank you so much, Nick. You really keep me home, and you really keep me going, homeboy, and I really appreciate you so much. And thank you so much. Let's see if anybody else has got anything. Let's see. Again, we had just to celebrate some people that donated recently. We had, just to keep us going here, we got Jack Lorenz, right, who donated $5 the other day. Really appreciate it. We had Rat Splatigan and Kristen Reese, who are always supporting us. TGF says, I'm putting up some new content soon, guys. That awesome. Can't wait to see it. Thank you so much. That'll be sweet, TGF. Can't wait to see some new content. Yeah, that'll be great. Okay, so again, you guys, if anybody's got anything, any suggestions they want to make, of course, I welcome them. I mean, I've got so much to cover. So, if I don't get to it, then forgive me. But we got so much to cover. But please give me some ideas. I mean, we got to get to Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I think that would be a great thing to cover. We have a bunch of, somebody suggested The Minister's Black Veil by Hawthorne, which I think would be something great to cover, because the veil, the mask, hello, it's relevant, and also the identity. That would be a great work of literature to cover. I think that was Jack who said that recently. Somebody did. I thought about, just copying Kotel, our homie David Patrick Harry, who had a great idea. He said that if anybody donates, I think he said, $150 to him and donates with an idea for a stream to cover, he will cover that stream, and he will cover that content in its entirety. Of course, DPH, his research is like unparalleled. I mean, he's such a great researcher, and he really covers things in depth. He's got all the materials up for you. So like, that's certainly, and his time is certainly valuable and worthwhile while he's doing his PhD research, doctoral research. And so I think but listen, I kind of want to copy that idea, and I don't know how to do it yet, but I'd say that, like, if anybody wanted me to cover something substantial, right? Something substantial, and give me don't put $100 in there. Give me what you want to give me the name of what you want to cover, and I will do it. I'll cover the book that you want me to. And I will go as in depth as possible. You may not agree with the conclusions I come to, and you may not even come to the same endpoint that I do in terms of the analysis. But hey, maybe that's why you want me to do it in the first place. So think about that, y'all. Think about that if that's a good idea. I think that's all of our time is valuable. In this circle, we're all doing stuff. We've all got stuff going on. We're all working. We have lives. We're out here living our lives, chilling, praying, going to church, trying to, meet people, make friends, keep friends that we have, take care of our family. Let's see. Kristen says, please pray for my bestie, Vadiswa. She collapsed at work, brain hemorrhage. She's been in hospital all day, unresponsive. Oh, 3 small children. I'm so sorry, Kristen. Yes. I will pray for your bestie. Yeah, absolutely. Yes. Hey, Kristen, I love you. We all love you. Shouts out to your best friend out there. And I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, but listen, we got hope, and hopefully she'll be fine. And listen, take care of your friends out there, people. I'm not offering advice. I'm the last person to offer advice. And I certainly I don't even want advice. Don't give me advice. Shit, I'm a grown man. I don't want any advice. I'm just saying. No, but you're all my friends. And, and I'm certainly not offering advice. I'm just a dude. Okay. But, as we all know, take care of your friends. We've talked about this before. I've talked about this before. Take care of your friends, people. Look out for your friends. Call your friends. Call your best friend. See what's up. Just call them and say, what's up? Because your friends are, this sounds so basic, but again, we live in a world where people don't have friends. Call your friends. It's that riddle. Remember, it's in Batman, right? It's the rarer they, what is it? The lesser, the fewer of them you have, right? The more valuable they are, right? Your friends. Absolutely. If you've got one friend in this world, right? You are blessed. You are lucky. One. If you got one true friend, don't put your friends to the test. Do not do it. Give, right? Shit. I'm not offering advice though. Don't listen to me. I'm just a dude. And hopefully I'm a good friend to my friends. I hope, because I love them. And, we all, we need to lift each other up, right? Because it's a cold, cold world out there. Remember what I was saying at the beginning about seeing fights everywhere, physical. I'm not talking hearing fights. I'm not talking internet fights. I'm talking physical. I'm saying there's a lot of shit out there in the world. You guys, you got to be careful and look out for each other and just love, give, right? I don't know. What do I know? I'm just a dude. So, with that being said, though, listen, right? We love you, Kristen. We love you, Crispy, Rat Splatigan, Nick, right? All of our homies out there. We really, really appreciate you. Steven, thank you again for the donation. Thank you to all my homies, all my friends, all my family. Anybody out there in need, right? Anybody out there in need. There are a lot of people in need. Shit, people poor in spirit, right? And they could be any one of us. So, yeah, listen, I know. I'm sorry to end it like that. I'm just, it's a weird time, isn't it? Isn't it a weird time out there, y'all? Have some fun. Go out there and have some fun. Listen to some music, right? Like I said last night, I'm going to keep listening to The Doors. And thank you to Kristen and OK and all my friends who posted on there about those messages, right? Go out there and listen to some music that pumps you up. Listen, I wish y'all could listen to what I listen to before the stream starts, because it's probably, look, I love music of every era. I love music for being music, okay? I love The Doors. I love electro. I love synth pop. I love synthwave. I love rap music, obviously. I love new music. I love 2000s, bad rock music. I love classic rock. I love classical music. I love jazz. I love some country music. Just give me good music, right? And right before this, I was listening to Drake for like five hours. And then I was listening to Chris Brown again, of course, and our, rich homie Quan. I just like to listen to music. So go out there and listen to some music. Have fun. Have fun, everybody. Thank you again for being here. I'm sorry I've been rambling at the end, but I'll see you soon. We got Jay's party coming up, right? The 90K Chad Nerd party on Cinco de Mayo. That'll be fun. Oh, damn. I'm going to be at a party, actually. I hope I'll be able to make that. I'm sure it'll go on for a while, though, because I've been to every other one. So, but yeah, I'm going to a little party that night. And hopefully you guys get out and go to a party. Go out and have you some fun. Okay. I love y'all. I will see you soon. Peace out. Bye, everybody. Peace.